G'day guys! Today I wanted to share a really nifty trick that can help massively improve your scores when using tactical objectives in games of Warhammer 40k 10th edition. So let's get stuck straight into it.
Look for the blood god.
G'day guys, I just wanted to show you a nifty little trick that you can use using the Tabletop Battles app to really improve your in-game results in Warhammer 40k tournaments. So for those who are not familiar with the Tabletop Battles app, it's released by the guys over at Goonhammer. It's a really ripper little app for recording your scores during 10th edition games of Warhammer 40k. And one of the things that's changed in 10th edition from some of the previous editions is that we now have tactical objective cards that you need to manage and use those to score your secondary victory points. And the trick I want to show you today is a way that you can really increase that secondary score. And also simultaneously reduce your opponent's secondary score, which is going to make it much easier for you to win games of Warhammer 40k. Alright, so let's open up the app and just have a quick look. So you'll see that there's a bunch of stats and stuff in here, but basically what we're going to do is create a new game by clicking on that little plus down the bottom, and then we're going to select 10th edition Warhammer 40k. Now this first screen just lets you put in a bunch of data about the mission that you're playing, etc. We're going to skip through that for now. You put in your information and your opponent's information. We'll skip through that for now. You get to select what deployment map you want to use, what mission special rules you want to use, and what primary objectives you want to use. There's a button at the top if you want to randomize these. We're just going to skip through that for now because that's not necessarily relevant to this trick that I want to teach you today. And then here's where you pick your tactical or fixed missions. Now, we're talking about tactical missions in this example. So we're going to select that for both players, and then we're going to skip over this section about the roll-off, etc. So now this screen here is the screen that you'll get each battle round. You basically have an opportunity here to select missions, which you can click on that little blue button, and you can either pick randomized missions if you don't have a deck of cards, or you can shuffle your deck of cards, draw your missions out, and then select them from the list. So for this example, we're going to select Area Denial and Assassination. So imagine we just drew those two cards. And then we're going to do our turn, and let's say we achieved both of those cards. So we click on the little button, we put down that we achieved it, then we go to our opponent's turn. They're going to select their cards. So let's say they got attempting target and behind enemy lines, for example. Right? And let's say they achieved both of theirs as well. Then we go into the next turn, and basically that now records your secondary score for that turn and takes you into the next battle round. And the thing you'll notice here is that when you hit select missions, ours doesn't show us Assassinate and whatever the other one was, fucking Area Denial. So they're no longer a valid option in this list. So basically once you achieve an objective, it gets removed from the remaining cards. Now, the reason that this is really helpful is now we can see at the end of our turn what cards remain in our deck, and then we can plan around those. So, and we can also look at our opponent's deck by hitting on theirs, and you can see what objectives are available to them. So you can see they have Area Denial and they have Assassination, but they don't have, Tempting Target and behind enemy lines, because they've already achieved those. And basically the idea of this trick is if you're using this app and you're entering all of the data as it comes up, you will be able to monitor which cards are still available, which cards have been selected for both you and your opponent, and then you're going to be able to make strategic decisions based on that information. So an example of this might be your opponent has still got behind enemy lines in their hand, right? So in your turn, you want to make sure that you're screening out if they still have things in strategic reserves so that they can't deep strike into your backfield. And if they have a fast unit like a land speeder or something like that, you might want to focus fire and kill that because you know that they haven't drawn their behind enemy lines card. So there's every chance that in their turn they're going to draw that card. And if you've preemptively taken out the units in their army that have the capacity to score that, and you're going to make it very difficult for your opponent to score that card. So the idea here is basically using this app to track and essentially count cards. You know which cards have been achieved, which cards are no longer in the deck, and which cards still are. Now, obviously, earlier in the game, this is going to provide somewhat less utility because, as you can see, there's still going to be lots of options left. But let's say in this turn you drew those 2 cards, you decided to discard one of them, spending a command point, and therefore selecting another one, right? And then, let's say you achieved the 2 that you didn't discard. You can see, that it progresses quite rapidly. So now, in our 3rd turn, when we go to select our missions, you can see there's only a small handful there. And that's only in the 3rd turn. So basically, the further towards the end of the game, this trick becomes way more valuable because you can basically skip ahead in the app to look at the future and see what cards your opponent has access to, and which cards you have access to. So it's more than just being able to look at your opponent and going, okay, cool, they might draw behind enemy lines, so I'm going to make sure that I remove their ability to score that. It's also for your purposes. So you might look at it and go, okay, cool, next turn, I'm very likely to draw behind enemy lines because, it might be one of the, if you're drawing 2 cards a turn and you've only got 6 cards left, well, there's a decent chance you're going to draw, that card. And in that situation, you might go, okay, cool, so this turn, I want to move something to a position where it's safe, it's not likely to get killed, and next turn, it's going to have the capacity to move, advance, and end in my opponent's deployment zone, or perhaps move and charge something. So you want to be thinking a step ahead by looking at the future cards that you're likely to draw, and then making decisions based off of those. You might end up going, okay, cool, I've got investigate signals are still in my hand, so I need to make sure I have some disposable units near the edges of the table so that if I do draw that card, I'm not sitting there going, oh my god, I can't score it because I'm too far away. You need to be able to reactively respond to these cards, and having an understanding of, what cards are still in the deck is a huge way that you can shore up that, ability to score those cards. So yeah, I just wanted to share that with you guys. Hope you enjoyed this little tactics video on 10th edition secondary objectives. If you would be interested, I could do a deep dive on each secondary objective and go through all of the pros and cons of these cards, how to go about achieving them, and whether or not they are suitable for fixed missions or whether or not they're best left for tactical. If that's something you'd be interested in, let me know in the comments section below. And yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys. I also just wanted to say a quick shout out to my supporters on Patreon. You guys are absolute legends, and you help me produce this content on a much more regular basis than I would otherwise be able to do, and at a much more high quality than I would otherwise be able to do. So a huge thank you to you all. And hopefully if that Patreon continues to grow, I might even be able to reduce my workload so that I can actually dedicate an entire day to producing content for you guys. And that's only possible with the support over on Patreon and on my website, blogfullofbloodgod.com, where you can also pick up merchandise that goes towards helping this channel continue to grow. So thank you very much for your support, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.
Alrighty guys, I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, all that good shit. Let me know what you think about tactical objectives in Warhammer 40k 10th edition, and let me know your experience using the Tabletop Battles app if you've used it before. And as always, feel free to head over to blogforthebloodgod.com, where you can pick up merchandise, you can show your support for the channel, you can join our Patreon and our Discord community, you can get one-on-one coaching. There's all kinds of really cool stuff over on blogforthebloodgod.com. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.
The Warhammer community suffers from some of the most prohibitively expensive essentials in the world, especially Australian content creators. Every single day, Dean wants to create content, but he can't. Suffering from old, worn-out brushes, expensive model kits, and costly software and equipment, he can't endure much longer. Just look at this dirty paint water. Would you drink this? Would you let your child? Even a small monthly donation can help provide Dean with clean paint water, basic tools for survival, and access to life-saving information and education. So please, follow the links in the description below and find out how you can sponsor a mad cunt like Dean today and end the suffering. Suffering that is cruel